Picture this. It's 2022, and you literally cannot walk into a store without seeing Ava Thompson. I mean, she was the absolute crown jewel of modern animation. Kids everywhere were wearing her signature neon hoodie. Major tech companies were partnering with her image left and right, and her show's ratings, they were just shattering network records. She was so universally beloved that she single-handedly revived her studio and spawned a multi-billion-dollar empire. But then, almost overnight, the entire empire just vanished. Highly anticipated spin-offs were quietly canceled. Those sold-out neon pink action figures and plushies, they were suddenly pulled from premium displays and tossed into discount store bargain bins, totally buried under $1 clearance stickers. So, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack exactly how the studio that built her went from a dominant industry titan straight to filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Okay, the global search traffic data for this era basically tells the whole story, and it is a staggering contrast. In 2022, we're talking absolute cultural dominance, a massive peak where she was the literal center of the pop culture universe. And then, bam! Just 2 years later in 2024, a vertical cliff dive into complete erasure. We aren't just talking about a gradual decline here, or a character naturally losing popularity over a decade. No, we are looking at a sudden, violent drop-off. Which brings us to the core question we really need to answer today. How does an IP this massive, with a fan base this incredibly passionate, completely self-destruct in less than 24 months? How did a multi-billion-dollar empire cause its parent studio to go bankrupt so fast? What we're doing today is essentially a forensic corporate autopsy. We're going to trace the exact boardroom decisions that executed what is arguably the most tragic franchise collapse in modern animation history.
To understand how Ava Thompson died, we kind of need to understand how she conquered the world in the first place. You know, unlike most modern, corporate-crafted mascots that feel like they were assembled by a sterile committee, Ava started out as a genuine indie passion project. She was created by a small, independent team of animators who poured their absolute hearts into her. They designed her with love, intense attention to detail, and a really deep understanding of unique psychological shape language. And wow, did it work beautifully. When the pilot first released online, the internet went completely wild. The engagement metrics were totally unprecedented for an indie studio. Well, sensing an absolute goldmine, a major media conglomerate, who we'll just refer to as Apex Media, swooped in to purchase the character rights and the entire IP. The estimated price tag? A staggering $45 million. Suddenly, this small indie project had massive corporate backing. Stock charts were trending upward, massive contracts were being signed, and for a brief, shining moment, it seemed like the perfect marriage of indie creativity and endless corporate funding.
Now at first, that massive budget absolutely delivered. Apex Media elevated the animation to cinema-grade 3D, and Season 1 was pretty much heralded as a critical masterpiece. But this actually set a very dangerous trap. Because behind closed doors, the executives at Apex didn't view Ava as a narrative masterpiece at all. They viewed her merely as a highly efficient retail delivery system. Under the original creator's contract, Apex had quietly secured total, unchecked control over all merchandising. They had their golden goose, and you better believe they were ready to squeeze it.
Before we look at what they actually did, we need to understand a core business concept here: brand dilution. In the business of media franchises, a brand's value is directly tied to its prestige and its scarcity. When a brand's prestige declines due to massive overexposure, that's brand dilution. Basically, if your character is everywhere all at once, they're suddenly nowhere. They lose the magic that made them special in the first place. By making Ava omnipresent, Apex Media inherently destroyed her unique value.
And man, the sheer velocity of this corporate greed was just staggering. We call this the merchandising massacre. Apex Media went into absolute overdrive. Within just 6 months of the Season 1 finale, they signed over 300 licensing agreements. Ava's face was suddenly slapped on absolutely everything. We were talking chaotic, low-effort products flooding the market. Cheap plastic goggles and toys that broke in 5 minutes, knockoff mobile games flooding the app stores, generic ads, and, I mean, seriously, Ava-branded fast food meals? The character was a deeply introverted tech wizard, and suddenly she's selling you a soggy cheeseburger. They completely stripped away our prestige for a quick buck.
But you know, that greed didn't just stay in the merchandise aisle. It bled directly into the production room. Executives demanded to capitalize on the hype immediately, so they literally forced the creative team to write, animate, and deliver Season 2 in less than half the time of the first season. It was an impossible deadline. To meet it, the studio was forced to outsource the animation to lower-cost overseas sweatshops, and the resulting drop in quality, it was impossible to ignore. The cinema-grade 3D and the iconic expressive micro-expressions of Season 1 were just completely gone. In Season 2, we got flat, unrendered lighting, broken facial rigs, and stiff recycled assets. The very soul of the show was actively hollowed out just to meet a quarterly earnings report.
But the absolute fatal death blow was yet to come. Despite the visual decline of Season 2, the brand was actually still printing money. But in late 2024, Apex Media made the fatal mistake that takes down so many dying media giants: the trend chase. Looking at the massive success of free-to-play battle passes, executives made a devastating pivot. They abruptly canceled the highly promised narrative-driven Season 3. Instead, they forced the developers to transition Ava's universe into a live-service, microtransaction-heavy online multiplayer game.
Think about why people actually loved Ava Thompson, right? The core audience was invested in the deep lore, the character relationships, and the emotional heart of the story. By turning all of that into a generic, uninspired, colorful shooter game, Apex alienated 100% of their core audience in one single move. Just listen to these real user reviews from the launch. Pay to win. They ruined Ava. 1 out of 10 stars. Fans were absolutely devastated to see a rich universe they loved turned into a mindless, soulless cash grab.
The objective, undeniable failure of the game's launch was immediate. In just the first 14 days after release, 2 weeks, the player count plummeted by 90%. That massive portion of the player base just walked away. The core audience completely rejected the pivot, leaving only a tiny 10% fraction behind.
And the financial fallout from that player exodus? Absolutely ruinous. $120 million. That is the staggering amount of money Apex Media had poured into the game's development. They were entirely relying on predatory microtransactions to recoup those massive costs. So when the players abandoned the game, the revenue stream vanished instantly. It left the studio with a catastrophic financial debt that they simply could not recover from.
Which leads us directly to the corporate burial. To cover that massive $120 million debt, Apex executed a brutal 3-step final move. First, the catastrophic live service launch. Second, suffering the massive financial debt. And third, the most heartbreaking step of all, they did the unthinkable. They shelved the entire Ava Thompson IP in a corporate vault for a tax write-off. They locked this beloved character away forever, ensuring she would never be worked on again, all while the executives walked away with their golden parachutes.
The thing is, Ava Thompson didn't die because audiences just grew tired of her. And she certainly didn't die because her original creators ran out of amazing ideas. The ultimate takeaway here is that a sustainable franchise just isn't built on a bubble. When you treat genuine art merely as a disposable asset, something to be relentlessly squeezed for short-term profit, you destroy the value for everyone. And when that corporate bubble inevitably pops, it's the original artists, the passionate animators, and the dedicated fans who are left to pay the price.
Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought for today. Ava Thompson remains a tragic masterpiece, not just for the incredible story she told on screen during her short life, but for the brutal business lesson she leaves behind. We really have to ask, when will corporate systems learn to distinguish between a beloved piece of art and a disposable consumer product? Because until they do, we are bound to see more beautiful worlds locked away in vaults, bearing nothing but a corporate barcode. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.